Hello, and welcome to the Whispers of Time, where I explore the mysteries and unknown history of some of the most fascinating people and events in the past. Today, I'm going to talk about Cleopatra, the famous queen of Egypt who lived more than 2,000 years ago. She was a powerful ruler, a cunning politician, and a passionate lover. She also had a mysterious death, and her body and tomb were never found. In this video, I will tell you some of the most interesting facts and secrets about Cleopatra, based on reliable sources and historical evidence. So, let's get started. Cleopatra's appearance is a subject of much debate and speculation, as there are no reliable portraits or descriptions of her from her own time. However, there are some clues that can help us get an idea of how she might have looked like, based on the available evidence. One source of evidence is the ancient coinage that bears her image. Coins were widely circulated and used for propaganda purposes, so they may not reflect her true appearance, but they do show how she wanted to present herself to the world. On the coins, Cleopatra is shown with a prominent nose, a strong chin, a narrow mouth, and almond-shaped eyes. She also wears a royal diadem, a symbol of her authority, and sometimes a veil, a sign of her Egyptian identity. Some of the coins also depict her with her lover and ally, Mark Antony, who appears more rugged and masculine than her. Another source of evidence is the marble bust that is housed in the old Altes Museum in Germany. This bust is believed to be one of the most realistic representations of Cleopatra, as it was made during her lifetime and may have been based on a plaster cast of her face. The bust shows her with curly hair, arranged in a melon style and gathered into a bun behind her head. Her nose is still prominent, but less so than on the coins, and her features are more delicate and feminine. She also wears earrings and a necklace, indicating her wealth and status. A third source of evidence is the written accounts of ancient historians and biographers, who described Cleopatra's personality and charisma more than her physical appearance. For example, Plutarch, who wrote about a century after her death, said that her beauty was not incomparable, but that she had an irresistible charm, a sweet voice, and a persuasive manner. He also said that she was well educated and spoke many languages, and that she could adapt to any situation and person. Based on these sources, we can conclude that Cleopatra was not a stunning beauty by modern standards, but that she had a distinctive and attractive appearance, and that she used her intelligence, charm, and culture to win over people and influence events. She was a remarkable woman, who left a lasting impression on history and the world. Cleopatra was a remarkable woman who had impressive language skills. She spoke as many as 9 languages according to some sources. She was the first and the only Ptolemaic ruler to learn the Egyptian language, which was the native tongue of her subjects. She also spoke Greek, which was her ancestral language and the official language of her government. She was fluent in Latin, the language of her Roman allies and enemies. She also knew several languages of the neighboring regions, such as Ethiopian, Aramaic, Syriac, Median, Parthian, and Troglodytes. Cleopatra learned these languages for various reasons. She was interested in different cultures and sciences, and she studied many subjects, such as mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, and chemistry. She also wanted to communicate with different people and influence them with her charm and persuasion. She used her language skills to win the hearts of Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, 2 of the most powerful men in the world at that time. She also used her language skills to negotiate with foreign kings and diplomats, and to assert her authority and legitimacy as the Queen of Egypt. Cleopatra's language skills were a testament to her intelligence, education, and ambition. She was not only a beautiful and powerful ruler, but also a scholar and a polyglot. She left a lasting impression on history. Cleopatra's relationship with Julius Caesar was a complex and influential one, that had both romantic and political aspects. Here is a summary of their relationship, based on the source found. Cleopatra and Caesar first met in 48 BCE, when Caesar arrived in Alexandria to settle a dispute between Cleopatra and her brother Ptolemy XIII. The two quickly became allies and eventually lovers, with Cleopatra joining Caesar in Rome after the birth of their son, Caesar Ion. Caesar and Cleopatra's relationship was of romantic nature, but it also had its political reasons. Cleopatra needed Caesar's armies to protect herself from Ptolemy XIII, while Caesar needed Cleopatra's impressive wealth to fund his armies and resources, thus gaining power back in Rome. Caesar and Cleopatra's relationship was also a symbol of the special link in ancient times uniting two ancient powerful nations, Egypt and Rome. Caesar enabled Cleopatra's accession to the throne of Egypt through his actions, but also through his death. He also recognized Caesar Ion as his son and heir, which angered many Romans who feared that he would make Egypt a part of the Roman Empire. Caesar and Cleopatra's relationship ended abruptly when Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE by a group of conspirators led by his adoptive son Brutus. Cleopatra returned to Egypt with Caesar Ion, and later formed another alliance and romance with Mark Antony, another Roman general and politician. Cleopatra's relationship with Mark Antony was one of the most famous and influential love affairs in history. It had both romantic and political dimensions, and it changed the fate of Egypt and Rome. Cleopatra and Mark Antony met in 41 BCE, when Antony summoned Cleopatra to Tarsus to ask for her support in his war against the Parthians. Cleopatra arrived in a spectacular fashion, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite, and charmed Antony with her beauty, intelligence, and wit. They soon became allies and lovers. And Antony followed her to Alexandria, where they lived a lavish and decadent life. Cleopatra and Mark Antony's relationship was not only based on passion, but also on mutual interests and ambitions. Cleopatra wanted to secure her throne and expand her kingdom, while Antony wanted to rival Caesar's glory and dominate the eastern provinces. They married in 36 BCE, according to Egyptian rites, and had 3 children, 2 twins, Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene, and a boy, Ptolemy Philadelphus. They also formed a political alliance, known as the Donations of Alexandria, in which they declared Caesar Ion, Cleopatra's son with Caesar, as the rightful heir of Caesar, and divided the eastern lands among their children. Cleopatra and Mark Antony's relationship, however, provoked the wrath and jealousy of Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and Antony's rival in Rome. Octavian accused Antony of betraying Rome and being under Cleopatra's spell. He declared war on them in 31 BCE, and defeated them at the naval battle of Actium. Cleopatra and Antony fled to Egypt, where they tried to resist Octavian's invasion, but failed. They both committed suicide in 30 BCE, Cleopatra by letting a poisonous snake bite her, and Antony by stabbing himself. Their deaths marked the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the beginning of the Roman Empire. The death. Cleopatra's death is one of the most famous and mysterious events in history. She was the last queen of Egypt, and the lover of 2 Roman leaders, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. She died in 30 BC, after losing a war against Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and heir. But how did she die, and why did she choose to end her life? According to most historians, Cleopatra committed suicide by allowing a venomous snake to bite her. This is supported by several pieces of evidence, including a description of her death in a contemporary account and the fact that she was buried with an asp, a poisonous Egyptian serpent and symbol of divine royalty. Some of the ancient sources that mention her death by snakebite are Strabo, Plutarch, and Cassius Dio. However, some historians doubt this story, and think that she may have used another method of killing herself, such as a needle or a pin dipped in poison, or that she may have been murdered by someone else. Some of the reasons for this skepticism are the lack of physical evidence of a snake bite on her body, the difficulty of smuggling a snake into her prison, and the possibility of political manipulation by Octavian, who wanted to portray her as a coward and a traitor. Cleopatra's motive for suicide was probably to avoid being captured and humiliated by Octavian, who planned to parade her as a prisoner in his triumph in Rome. She also wanted to preserve her dignity and sovereignty as the Queen of Egypt, and to join her beloved Antony in death, who had killed himself earlier after hearing a false report of her death. Cleopatra's death marked the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the Hellenistic period, and the beginning of the Roman Empire and the Roman Egypt. The location of Cleopatra's tomb is one of the greatest mysteries of ancient history. Cleopatra was the last queen of Egypt. She died in 30 BC, after losing a war against Octavian, and where was she buried? According to most ancient sources, Cleopatra committed suicide by allowing a venomous snake to bite her. She did this to avoid being captured and humiliated by Octavian, who planned to parade her as a prisoner in his triumph in Rome. She also wanted to preserve her dignity and sovereignty as the Queen of Egypt, and to join her beloved Antony in death, who had killed himself earlier after hearing a false report of her death. They were buried together in a mausoleum, a large tomb, according to some writers, such as Plutarch and Cassius Dio. However, the exact location of their tomb is unknown, and has been the subject of much speculation and exploration. Some scholars believe that Cleopatra and Antony were buried within Alexandria, the capital of ancient Egypt, and where they died. However, over the past 2,000 years, coastal erosion has meant that parts of Alexandria, including a section that holds Cleopatra's palace, are now underwater. Even if the tomb is not underwater, there is a good chance that it was destroyed at some point in antiquity or that it is buried beneath. Modern-day development in Alexandria. Other scholars suggest that Cleopatra and Antony were buried outside Alexandria, in a site called Taposiris Magna, located about 31 miles, 50 kilometers, west of Alexandria. This site was a temple dedicated to Osiris, the god of the underworld, and Isis, the goddess of magic and fertility, who were also the patron deities of Cleopatra. For the past 15 years, a team led by Kathleen Martinez has been excavating the site, finding remains that date back to the time of Cleopatra, including a hoard of coins minted during her reign. They also found a burial chamber with 2 mummies, who may have been priests or nobles associated with Cleopatra. Martinez believes that Cleopatra's tomb is hidden somewhere in the temple complex, and that she is close to finding it. However, many other experts disagree with this theory, and argue that there is no evidence that Cleopatra and Antony were buried at Taposiris Magna. They point out that the site was too far from Alexandria, and that it was not a royal necropolis. They also note that the mummies found there are not related to Cleopatra, and that the coins and other artifacts are not conclusive proof of her presence. They think that Cleopatra would have wanted to be buried in a more prominent and secure location, closer to her palace and her people. Therefore, the location of Cleopatra's tomb remains a mystery, and the chances of finding it are slim. It is possible that the tomb was lost or destroyed by natural or human causes, or that it is still hidden somewhere in or near Alexandria, waiting to be discovered. Until then, we can only imagine how the tomb of the last queen of Egypt would look like, and what secrets it would reveal. Some interesting facts and secrets about Cleopatra. Cleopatra was not Egyptian. She was actually born in a Greek family that ruled Egypt for almost 300 years. Her ancestor was Ptolemy I, one of Alexander the Great's generals, who took over Egypt after Alexander's death. Cleopatra was the last of the Ptolemaic rulers, and the first one to learn the Egyptian language. She also adopted many Egyptian customs and rituals, such as worshipping the goddess Isis. Cleopatra married both of her brothers. Yes, you heard that right. The Ptolemaic rulers had a weird tradition of marrying their siblings to keep their bloodline pure. Cleopatra's parents were probably brother and sister, and she herself married her two younger brothers, Ptolemy XIII and Ptolemy XIV, who were also her corollars. But she didn't love them, she only used them for political reasons. She actually had them killed when they tried to overthrow her or threaten her power. I hope you enjoyed this video, and learned something new and interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Also, let me know in the comments what you think about Cleopatra, and what other topics you want me to cover in the future. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.